this one? What is it, 6-5 now?
That's right. A game going on right now up in the Metrodome, and they are really raising all kinds of cane up there underneath that dome. Game 6 of the World Series at the Minneapolis Metrodome has been a wild and woolly affair. It's in the bottom of the 6th inning now. Minnesota has come from behind, and they have taken the lead over St. Louis 6-5. Now, St. Louis had the lead earlier in the ballgame 5-2. They started quickly on an upper deck home run by Tommy Herr in the first inning, but the Twins came roaring back in the bottom of the 5th. They scored 4 runs to tie the game and then to take the lead. The big blow, a 2-run home run by Don Baylor. The Twin fans are about to lift the roof off the Metrodome with their cheering. The game is now in the bottom of the 6th inning. Minnesota leading St. Louis 6-5. The Cards lead that series 3-2. If St. Louis comes from behind and wins this ball game, they will be world champs. If Minnesota wins today, then there will be a Game 7 tomorrow to decide it all. Turning now to college football this afternoon in Albany State. The Albany State College Rams pulled out a tough 21-20 come-from-behind victory over the Georgia Southwestern Hurricanes from Americus. It's always a hard-hitting contest between these two rivals. In the first quarter, Albany State's Stanley Williams passes to James Rich. He's hit and fumbled. Southwestern's Mike Queen recovers deep in Ram territory. That set up early in the second quarter as Americus came roaring back down the field. The Hurricanes from Georgia Southwestern, Anthony Jenkins, will pass into the end zone. The ball bounces off of Arthur Davis, but Robert Wheeler makes a great heads-up catch for the Hurricanes. They missed the point-after attempt. The Hurricanes led 6-0. That missed point-after would come back to haunt them. A Southwestern fumble set up the Rams later in the second quarter. Stanley Williams for Albany State passing to a wide-open Hezekiah Barkley for a 20-yard touchdown, and Albany State took the lead in the game 7-6 when they had a successful point-after kick. Georgia Southwestern would respond to Albany State's score with a length of the field drive. It was capped by Anthony Jenkins' 3-yard keeper for the touchdown. Southwestern retook the lead again, 13-7. It stayed that way until less than a minute before the half. Albany State trying for a quick score. Stanley Williams from inside his own 5-yard line would throw deep. The pass is intercepted by the Canes' Crash Landon, one of the great names in college football today, and then he earns his namesake on the return. He crash lands into the end zone for the touchdown. Georgia Southwestern led Albany State 20-7 at the intermission. But in the second half, the Rams shut down the Hurricanes. Fullback Donald Parham scored 2 touchdowns for the Rams, the last in the final 2 minutes of the game. Albany State comes from behind to edge Georgia Southwestern 21-20. That muffed extra point try in the second quarter comes back to cost the Hurricanes the game. Southwestern is now 1-3-1 on the year. Albany State is now 4-3. At Cleveland Field in Valdosta, a very successful homecoming win for Valdosta State. The Blazers crushed West Georgia 49-14. Freshman quarterback Ty Cottle of Tift County made his first start for VSC, an impressive one, rushing for 3 touchdowns, passing for another. The Blazers rolled up close to 500 yards total offense as they win it big and move to 5-1 on the season. In Athens, also a winning homecoming for the Georgia Bulldogs, but it wasn't as easy for the 12th-ranked Dogs. Georgia had to come from behind in the final minutes of the game to edge Kentucky 17-14. Georgia coach Vince Dooley on the sidelines, coaching just days after having heart surgery to unblock clogged arteries. It was a tough game for him and his Bulldogs. In the first quarter, Kentucky tailback Mark Higgs goes in for the touchdown from the 1, and the Wildcats took a 7-0 lead. Then later in the first quarter, Kentucky would come right back down the field. Quarterback Glenn Four will roll out and go long to D. Smith. Watch this. He makes a fantastic juggling catch in the end zone, a 41-yard touchdown. The Wildcats grabbed a 14-0 lead over Georgia. Coach Jerry Claiborne could feel an upset brewing. Well, the Bulldogs came back in the second half. Quarterback Wayne Johnson came off the bench to rally the Dogs. Third quarter, Johnson keeps for an 11-yard touchdown. That cut the Wildcats' lead to just 4, 14-10. Georgia's hopes dim late in the fourth quarter, going for it. 4th down and 1. The Wildcats stopped the Dogs. It came down to a very close measurement, and Georgia was just inches short. Kentucky took over the ball with about 5.5 minutes left to go in the game. Dooley and all the Dog fans worried. But the Bulldog defense held Kentucky as they did the entire second half. It gave Georgia one last chance. A minute left in the ball game. Lars Tate caps a 49-yard drive with the winning touchdown. He goes around the end for a 5-yard score. Georgia comes from behind to beat Kentucky 17-14. The Bulldogs' 10th win in a row over the Wildcats, but it was a tough one. Coach Vince Dooley a very tough afternoon, a real heart stopper just days after his heart surgery, but he came out a winner. In Knoxville, Georgia Tech was beaten by 13th-ranked Tennessee, 29-15. The Vols freshman tailback Reggie Cobb rushed for 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. 6th-ranked Auburn last night declared quarterback Jeff Berger ineligible for today's game because of possible NCAA rules violations, but the Tigers didn't need him to beat Mississippi State 38-7. Reggie Slack started, passing for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns to lead the Auburn win. Ole Miss clobbered Vanderbilt 42-14. The Commodores' very hard team to figure out, except that they have no defense. Georgia Southern got back on the winning track. They beat West Carolina 37-16. The upset of the day and maybe of the season so far, North Carolina State edges Clemson 30-28. State rolled to a 30-0 halftime lead and then held on as Clemson scored 4 touchdowns in the final 16 minutes. But the Tigers' dream of a perfect season comes to an end. Clemson is now 6-1. South Carolina beat East Carolina with ease 34-12. A very close one. Maryland edged Duke 23-22. Second-ranked Nebraska blasted Kansas State 56-3. The Cornhuskers still undefeated. Number 9 Syracuse put the squeeze on Colgate 52-6. Don McPherson passing for 4 touchdowns to Tommy Kane. In one of the country's best rivalries, 10th-ranked Notre Dame defeated Southern Cal for the 5th year in a row. Southern Cal in the white took the lead early in the first quarter. Rodney Peete rolls out and passes for a Trojan touchdown. But then the Irish would regroup. They took control of the ball game. Scouts from a dozen bowl games were at the contest on a cold, gray day in South Bend. But the Irish hearts are still happy. Notre Dame beat Southern Cal 26-15. Number 14 Michigan State tied by Illinois 14-14. The Big Ten race really a wild and crazy one this year. Number 19 Oklahoma State beat Missouri 24-20. Some other college football scores this afternoon. In the fourth quarter, 15th-ranked Indiana is leading 20th-ranked Michigan 14-10. That in the fourth quarter. Also in the fourth quarter, Ohio State leading Minnesota 28-9. Texas A&M beat Rice 34-21, and it was Arkansas down in Houston 21-17. The all-classification high school state softball championships are wrapping up this afternoon and tonight in Tifton. The host Tift County Lady Devils are the undefeated team left in the Quad A play. Tift County's girls won their first 2 games of the day over Statesboro and Parkview High. Tift County will play the winner of the Parkview-Jonesboro semifinal contest in the title game later tonight. In AAA, the Coffee High Lady Trojans from Douglas are still alive. So this is in the final of the state high school softball tournament going on today in Tifton. One of the biggest cross-country invitationals for high school runners was held in Albany today. The Westover High Cross-Country Invitational was run this morning at the Albany Junior College Field. Over 300 boys and girls runners from all over the state competing. In the boys' race, Westover High's outstanding senior Mark Sanderson defended his title in the team's invitational, winning in a time of 15 minutes and 58 seconds. Westover's Jason Wilcox finished second. Brian Schmiel of Warner Robins was third. Westover won the boys' team title for the first time in the 7 years of the Invitational. Shaw of Columbus finished second. Crawford County was third. In the girls' competition earlier, it was Marist High's Kit Hoover setting a new course record. She had a time of 18 minutes and 56 seconds. That's sports.